Welcome everybody to today's live event. I'm here with Emily from our Google team, and we're going to be looking at 10 of the most asked Google shopping questions, and hopefully we can answer quite a lot of sort of like the highly requested questions that we get from customers. So it's going to be from things like GTIN codes to selecting the best keywords for your campaigns and things like that. So if you do have any questions for us, pop them in the comments below and one of our team will try and get back to you. If they're account specific, then it might take us a little bit of time to come up with an answer, but we'll do our best to try and get back to you. So Emily, do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
So I'm Emily. I work on the PPC team at EKM, looking after all of the customers who are on our PPC service. All across Google campaigns, Facebook and Instagram, different campaigns that we run for our customers. And so hopefully I'll be able to help answer some of the most asked questions that I get on a daily basis.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. So I guess we'll just jump right into it then, if that's okay. So a lot of things, we'll cover a little bit of the basics at the beginning and then we'll get into the more sort of advanced stuff a bit later on. But the first question we've got here is, what is the first thing that you need to know before you jump into any paid advertising?
So the first thing I tell all customers or someone who's asking me about paid advertising, it's really important to know that it's not guaranteed to get you any sales. I'm sure many of you know that you've spent hundreds of pounds on different kinds of advertising platforms before, and it's not returned you anything, and it can leave you a sour taste in your mouth. Nothing's guaranteed, unfortunately, and every kind of marketing avenue is always going to be a risk. There's not any kind of marketing avenue that's guaranteed. If there was, it would cost a lot of money to put your products on there, because Google shopping, it's a risk just like any other marketing avenue, but it is one of the more preferred ones that we recommend to our customers. I'll go into that a bit in detail later of why, but yeah, the most important thing to remember that if it's a last ditch hope for your business, that you're hoping you're going to throw your last bit of money into paid advertising, just bear in mind without the correct structure, campaigns and things like that, it is risky. It's going to be a risk. You can't force people to buy your products, so we can only get them so far to your website. But hopefully it will be amazing and you'll get loads of sales. But ultimately, you can't pin all of your hopes on it. So it's also good to, if you're doing a Google campaign, also maybe do stuff on socials as well like that, and spread your products far and wide, just to cover all bases. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. It is good practice to kind of spread your budgets out across a few different like sources as well, from like social to retargeting and things like that too. So
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for those of our viewers who maybe haven't done any Google shopping before or aren't really sure what it does or what it is, can you sort of just explain sort of the benefits of Google shopping over other advertising revenue channels? Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. So Google shopping is one of so when you're searching for something on Google, I'm sure you've all searched for something on Google, and the little pictures with the prices come up at the top or maybe down the side. That's what Google shopping ads are. They come up at the top of Google before even the paid AdWords. They come before them. So it is the top of Google, and it is the most cost-effective form of Google advertising as well. On average, the cost per clicks are lower of Google shopping ads in comparison to the AdWords campaign. The reason why we like to recommend Google shopping as opposed to Google AdWords for our customers is because mostly our customers are e-commerce sellers who've got products to sell. So the best thing about Google shopping is that when a customer is searching for something they want to buy, they can see the picture of your item, they can see what it is, if it matches what they want, they can see the price of it also, and often the shipping price as well. So you will never pay anything to Google until that person has looked at your item against your competitors and decided they still want your item, click through to your website, hopefully to make a purchase. So you'll never pay anything to Google until somebody actually clicks on one of your advertisements. So you're basically getting free advertising when it's up there. If someone sees your product and your brand, it's free unless they click on it. And hopefully, we've got them to your website. Hopefully, they'll ultimately check out. So that's really the best thing about Google advertising. Google Shopping specifically. And like I said, the cost per clicks are quite considerably low for it. So it is kind of a cost-effective form of advertising if you can get the structure right. You can set your daily budget. So if you didn't have much money to spend, you could maybe set £5 a day, and you would keep getting clicks until that £5 ran out, and you'd never spend more than that, so it couldn't run away with you. But that's, it is the best kind of marketing that we recommend. Also, people are actually searching for the product, so we know that they want it. So, you've kind of overcome the hurdle of trying to push a product in front of someone and hope that they want it. They're actively searching for it. So, we know they're interested in the item. So the chance that they'll purchase is a lot higher.
Yeah, great, thank you. I know a lot of our customers have had really, really good success with Google Shopping in the past, and have sort of contributed it to sort of the success of their online shop as well. So it's definitely one to consider, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of customers on our service, they get a vast majority of their revenue from Google Shopping ads. So it is really good.
Yeah, wonderful. So one question we do get asked quite a lot is, do ads interfere with your other organic posts being seen?
No, so your ads will never interfere with organic posts. The Google Shopping ads will appear at the top, and on the shopping tab there's actually free listings underneath, so most likely you'll appear in both. So it doesn't interfere with any organic posts that you're doing. You'll rank like you normally do on Google, regardless of your shopping ads, whether you've got them up or not. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. It won't interfere.
Great, thank you. And now the next question we've actually got is a little bit more technical. So what are GTIN and MPN codes?
So GTINs and MPNs are, it stands for Global Trade Identifying Number. So it's actually a requirement from Google to have these associated with your product. So it's basically like a barcode. You'll get it from your supplier, and they'll be able to provide you with them. And you can enter it in the back of your Reclaim shop to associate it with your product. So this goes for like branded products, things that would have an identifying number, barcode. If your products are like handmade or homemade, you won't need one on there, because obviously you've made it yourself. You don't need to add a barcode. The good thing about GTINs is it actually improves your Google Shopping ranking, because Google can associate your product with other people maybe selling the same product, and if someone's looked at that product and maybe a similar product, they're more likely to show your product if you've got the GTIN associated with it. So it does result in, I think it's about 40% more clicks if you've got the GTIN on there. If you haven't got the GTIN on there and you're still showing shopping ads, you're essentially going against Google requirements. And you probably, it's a little bit dangerous, to be fair, because if you upload your product feed and you've not got GTINs and it goes through fine, Google will constantly crawl your website and your ads. So there is a high chance that they will catch up with you, and they will find out that you haven't got your GTINs on, and in that case, they can, suspend your whole feed if they find out that you've not got the GTINs in there. So it's definitely a good idea to add them. If you don't have them, contact your supplier. They'll be able to give them to you, and you can upload them onto your Reclaim site then, and they'll be included in the product feed in that way. So it's really important that if you've got them or if your products require them, that they are included. So because you don't want your feed getting suspended and all your ads going down. So something very important to consider.
Great. And what are MPN codes, Emily? Are they related to GTIN?
Sorry, MPN codes, it's essentially the same thing. It's just a universal identifier number, so it might be called an EAN as well. That's a European associated number. So yeah, it's essentially the same thing. It's just like a barcode kind of thing. Your supplier will be able to tell you, which one it is, and which kind of column to put it in for Google.
Wonderful, thank you. That was such a detailed answer. I think a lot of people maybe do get mixed up with the different names of them as well. I think we just did have a question about, is the GTIN the same as an EAN? So yeah, definitely a good question there to ask. Our next one is, why do I need a Google Merchant Center account?
Okay, so the Google Merchant Center account is basically, a host for your Google feed. So that'll be where your Google feeds are created. That'll be where you manage it from. If you've got any issues, like the GTIN issues, you'll be able to see them in the Merchant Center, or any other issues with your products. If Google detect them that they're going against one of their policy violations, or maybe the image is too small, it'll flag all of these errors in the Merchant Center, and you can view it and fix them, and see how your products are active, inactive. It's basically a host for the feed, and you need it to be able to run Google Shopping ads in the ad account.
Wonderful. So am I right in basically saying you can't really run Google ads without a Google Merchant account?
No, you can't. No, exactly. The Merchant Center will also claim your domain URL. So you can only have one Merchant Center with claim of your domain. So if you've already got one and you want to start a new one, you can do that, but you've got to reclaim your URL. So yeah, it's the kind of host for your site, your product feed, to be able to use the other Google platforms, Google Ads, and so on.
Yeah, that's good stuff to know that. So we're just going to move on now to a bit more in depth about like getting the ads set up and things like that. But if you do have any comments for us, if you pop them down below, we'll try and get round to them at the end of the live, and if not, we'll get round to them afterwards as well. So one of the most asked questions that I know we get quite a lot is, how do I know what keywords to use for my ads?
Yeah, so I get asked this question a lot as well. So with Google Shopping, you don't really have to worry too much about keywords, as Google will match your product based off your product title and your product description. So that's essentially your keywords. So it's really important to get your product title as descriptive as possible. So imagine that someone can't see what your product looks like. Describe it in the title, use the size, the brand, the colour, everything that you can in the product title, because that is what Google will match with the person who's searching. They'll match it to your product title. So it's really important, and the same with the descriptions. So I wouldn't get too hung up on keywords and things like that, because that's more so for AdWords campaigns. If you're doing like the text campaigns, which are underneath shopping, that would be more so where you would concentrate on keywords, and in that case you'd use as specific as possible to your brand, for with what you're selling and what you're aiming for people to be searching for your brand. But with Google Shopping, I wouldn't concentrate too much on keywords. Just make sure that your product titles are descriptive. It's not just like a one or two words for the product title. A good tip to look at your competitors' product titles on Google Shopping. So if you type in to Google like something similar to your product, it will bring up all of the Google Shopping results. You can see what your competitors have titled their products to be able to rank in Google Shopping there. So that's a good tip to be able to see how descriptive they actually make the titles, and you can emulate that with your products.
Great, thank you. I just want to sort of pin in here that you can also speak to our experts at EKM if you want any advice on your Google Shopping, or if you want to set up your Google Shopping account, just let us know, get in touch with us and we'll be happy to help. Another question that gets asked, and I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a two-parter here, if that's okay, is what happens once Google has approved your feed? And then the second part I'm going to ask is what should a merchant do if Google has disapproved their feed?
Okay, yeah, so once your feed's been approved, then you're good to go to create your ads in the ad account. And obviously you can do this in many different ways. Create your campaign. As Rachel said, we do have a service at EKM where we can create the campaign for you. We create the merchant center for you as well, upload the feed and everything like that. So we do offer that service. In regards to if your feed got disapproved, you'd have to look into your merchant center, like I said earlier, for the reason of the disapproval. In some cases, it might be the GTINs, like I mentioned earlier, it might be a few different reasons. So you might have to make adjustments with your feed, so adjustments to your products. It might say, the images are too small, or, it's the links are incorrect or something like that. It'll be something new that you should be able to fix. In cases where, Google has disapproved your feed for a term like misrepresentation, which is quite broad, it's quite difficult to find out exactly why. You must make sure, that you're meeting all of Google's policies. So you need to have contact details on your website, you need to have a returns page, you need to make sure, the pages meets all of the requirements that are on there. You need to have specific delivery information on there, and it might just be a case of verifying your phone number in the merchant center as well. Oftentimes that can disapprove the feed. So if there's any issues, look into your merchant center, figure out the reason why. If you're still not sure, contact Google support, and you should hopefully be able to chat with someone who can give you, some kind of guidance on how to proceed with that. Because it does happen quite often, and they can be quite vague with the reasons. So if you can chat with someone, sometimes they can give you a better idea of why it's been disapproved for you to fix it. Oh, also, sorry, something else I've just thought of as well. It can be disapproved if you're selling items such as like knives or face masks or hand sanitizers or things like that. Google do not permit you to advertise those things. So also if something's got like listed chemicals in it, they may disapprove the feed for that as well. So there are certain items that Google do not allow you to advertise. So this will probably show up in your merchant center as policy violations. So it should give you a list of the items that are going against the policy, and you'll be able to remove these items and then request a review of your feed and hopefully, go on with your advertising when it gets approved, hopefully.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, it was good to mention those as well, about some products just simply aren't allowed to be advertised with Google. So we're coming towards the end of the questions now. I think there's an extra bonus question there at the bottom as well. But a lot of people ask us, well, how long is it going to take for me to see results from my Google Shopping campaign? Because obviously they're investing a lot of money into running the campaign, creating ads and things like that. So they obviously want to know how long it's going to take to see a return. So what would you advise?
So obviously it's very dependent on, the amount of budget that you're spending, the type of industry that you're in, the type of products that you're selling, how much demand there is for your products that you're selling. But we always say to customers, give it 3 months. That's kind of, the testing time. In that time, we can see how the campaigns worked. You've have chance to learn from it. In the first kind of month, it's learning and testing the campaign, seeing, you know, what people are searching for, if it's resulting in sales, optimizing the campaign, editing your cost per clicks, you know, seeing what works and what doesn't, raising your budget. You know, there's many things you can do to optimize the campaign, but ultimately it's not going to happen overnight. You've got to give it time. It's not a short-term strategy. It's you know, it will take a bit of time to build up the campaign, and the more like historical data that you've got in the campaign, the better it will work. So starting from scratch, you've really got to give it at least a month, if not 3, to see you know, see what kind of results that you're getting accurately. You can't really base it off 1 week and say, oh, that week went really well, or that week went really bad, and the next week, you know, went really well or really bad. You can't really compare them unless you've got enough data to be able to step back and look at them and analyze them more over a longer period of time. So yeah, definitely don't expect results overnight. It isn't, you know, isn't the magical fix. But yeah, hang in there, and hopefully, you know, stick it out for 3 months. If it's worked for you, you'll know.
Yeah, great, thank you. So on to the last couple of questions now. A lot of people, when they get ads up and running, maybe they've never really done ads before, and they're not really sure what they should be looking for in order to determine whether it's obviously been worked very well for them or not. So what key metrics should merchants be paying attention to when it comes to Google Shopping ads?
Yeah, so a lot of there's a lot of metrics when you're looking into the Google ad account, and it can get quite confusing. So the main metric I would say to look at would be the return on ad spend that you're getting from your ads. In Google Ads, it's actually called conversion value over cost, which is the same thing. So basically, say for example, every £1 you're spending, how much you're making from the ads. I mean, this can differ from customer to customer or business to business, depending on, you know, your profit margins, how much your budget is, many different variables like that. We tend to aim for our customers, you know, for 10 times return on ad spend. So for every £1, there's to be making at least £10. So depends on the industry you're in and the products that you're selling and the demand that's there. You know, it depends on that number. It will fluctuate, but that's really the most important metric to consider. There'll be like lots of agencies that'll tell you, well, we can get, you know, 6,000 clicks to your website this month, but that's great, but how many sales have you had? You know, you can get lots of people to the website, but what you're really looking for is the quality of people who are visiting your website, as opposed to the quantity. You want a higher percentage of people who are visiting the website to ultimately purchase, as opposed to, you know, having loads of people come to the website, not finding what they want, and, you know, not buying. So you're paying for them clicks. It might look like you've had loads of traffic to the site, that's great, but, you know, ultimately you've not had the sales, so it's not comparatively. So if, you know, you're looking at the return on ad spend or the conversion value over cost, you might be getting a smaller amount of people to your website, but ultimately a higher percentage of those are actually purchasing. So in the long run, it is way better to kind of base your campaign on that, as, you know, it will be more profitable for you, really. Unless you're looking to drive traffic to the website, then by all means, but, you know, ultimately I think most people are looking for sales, so that's kind of the way to go and the thing to look at.
Great, thank you very much. So we're on to our last 2 questions. One of them is a bit of a bonus question for you. A lot of questions we get from people are, why can't they see their own Google Shopping ads?
Yes, so that's a good question, and I get asked that all the time as well. So the reason that you might not be able to see your Google Shopping ads, there's a few reasons for it. Firstly, I would just say, you know, I would recommend to not search for your own Google ads for multiple reasons. So if you're continuously searching for your Google ads, obviously you're not clicking on them because you don't want to charge yourself money, Google will, recognize that, people are searching for this item, they're not clicking on it. So in result, they may not show that item as much, because it's not resulting in sales, it's not resulting in clicks. So it will negatively affect your, your products being shown if you continuously are searching for them. So I'd really recommend, try not to search for them as much as possible. Also, Google, may not show them to you if you're logged into your Google account somewhere. It'll associate you with, being the creator of the ads, and it may not show you them for that reason. If you really feel like you want to search for them, I'd recommend, private browsing or incognito mode to have a look. But like I said, try not to search for your ads as much as possible, because it won't help you. It'll negatively affect you. But if you're getting impressions and clicks, then your ads are live. They're running. So you don't need to search for them, unless you're worried that they're not live. But you'd be able to see that within your Google Ads account, to be able to see whether they were live or not. So it's not really necessary. So I try and avoid it if at all possible.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we are coming to the end of our live now. So if you do have any questions, pop them in the comments now, and we'll get back to them after this bonus question, which I think is the golden question that a lot of people want the answer to, which is, what can I do to improve the performance of my ads?
Yeah, so there's loads of things you can do to improve, but the most important things are, make sure you've got your GTN codes uploaded or similar, like we talked about earlier, as it will increase the visibility of your ads. Make sure you've got good images of your pictures, no watermarks or anything like that, because they will get disapproved as well, or not ranked very highly. Make sure your product descriptions are good and your titles, like we spoke about earlier. They're all important things, to make sure that your ads are showing correctly. Keep monitor of your campaign. Make sure it's not spending out of control, and you're making return on it. Make sure your website is up to par. Make sure have a site review from EKM if you want one. If you feel like you're getting loads of clicks through to your website, you're not getting enough sales, it might be something that's wrong on your website. It might be the functionality, it might be the checkout even. I spoke to someone yesterday that was getting lots of people through to the checkout page, and only half of them were ultimately checking out. So it may be something with the checkout page, that needs to be worked on. It could be something on your actual site as opposed to the campaign itself. So just make sure it's polished as it can be. Your products are as polished as they can be. Look at your competitors, see what they're doing, and yeah, there's multiple other things you could do with the campaign and things like that, but I won't go into detail on strategies and things like that. But we definitely offer a service to do that for you. We offer a setup service as well, and I'm sure you can get in touch with one of our lovely people who will be able to help you with that, if that's something you would be interested in. So yeah, that's quite a few things that you should be able to improve with your products and your website to be able to have them ranking better. Ultimately, we can't force people to search for your products. Nobody can. If you say you're selling loads of this product on your website, but you really want to be selling loads of this product on your website because it's a really high priced item, unfortunately, we've got no control over what people are searching for. If someone's searching for the low priced item, that's what your budget will get spent on, as opposed to the high priced item. We can't force people to search for this kind of thing. It's just based on demand. There'll be fluctuations depending on the weather or lockdown or things like that. We can't predict every kind of demand, and yeah, just take it with a pinch of salt, and yeah, make sure everything's up to scratch.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. So that's we're now at the end of our 10 most asked Google shopping questions, we do have a couple of questions in the comments that I think we could maybe answer now. And if we don't get around to them, we will try and answer you later on after the live. So Jessie asks, once they've clicked on your ad, can you then use remarketing to encourage the purchase?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. So if you can do Facebook retargeting, you can do Google retargeting. To do Facebook retargeting, you have to have the Facebook pixel installed on your website. So there is a guide, I believe, an EKM guide that will help you and show you how to install the pixel on your website. What everybody should have it on, really. I mean, it's good data to be collecting, even if you don't use it for advertising. It's good data to have. You can look at what people have viewed, how many people have viewed content, how far they've got in the customer journey, whether they got to the checkout page, whether they added things to the cart. It's really useful information to use, and later you can use that for advertising on social platforms, so you can show customers the items that they actually looked at, remind them of it. It works quite well, especially for higher priced items, maybe things that people research for a while before they ultimately check out. So it's good to kind of have that double pronged approach. So you're getting them twice. You're getting them when they're looking for you, and then you're getting them when they least expect it while they're at home scrolling on Facebook on the phone. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing to consider to do both. And it's definitely good to have the pixel installed, whether you use it or not. It's good to analyze that data.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I think doing retargeting is definitely more powerful, because the more times a customer can see your product, the more likely they are to buy it from you. So It's definitely a very good strategy to do for your online shop.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of overcome the hurdle of them knowing about you and the product, because they've already looked at it, they've already been on the website. So, we know they're interested in that item. So it's just kind of reminding them about it and kind of pushing them to purchase. So yeah, it is a really good second approach to Google Shopping. Yeah. We also do offer a service of that as well at EKM for Facebook retargeting and Instagram retargeting. So yeah, hit us up if you're interested in that as well.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a question from Lisa, who says, how many products do you need on your website to do Google Shopping?
There's no product limit. You can have 5, you could have 5,000. It doesn't matter. They'll all be in your product feed, as long as you can make sure that they've all got correct images, correct titles, things like that. You can have as many as you want. Obviously your budget might reflect how many products you have. If you've got a lot of products, you might want to have a higher budget. So because basically all your products will be submitted on the Google feed, and then the products that will show up will be what people are searching for. So if you've got a large amount of products, you might want to have a slightly higher budget, because if all your clicks are getting spent up and your campaign is limited by budget, you may want to increase it to be able to keep your ads running all day, so people can see if people are searching for different products later in the day, they'll be able to be shown there. But it is no minimum. Either you should be able to have as many on there, or not as many as you like.
Good, thank you very much. So I think we only have 1 or 2 more questions now. So the next question is, will all advertised products be shown in Google Shopping ads on top of the page, or only a few products?
Well, it depends. It depends on what the person's searching for. So if you've got multiple products with the same product title or similar, in that case, it might show 1 or 2. If they're all different product titles and different products, they're not going to show up together, because there's only one product will be, you know, accurate for what that person's searching for. So it's not going to show all your ads at the same time. It'll just be based on whatever the person is searching for. So whatever most accurately fits their search in your products will be what is shown. Obviously, if nothing accurately fits their search, then none of your ads will appear, but you won't pay for any unless someone's searching for them and ultimately clicks on them. Is that the right answer to that question? Did I get the question right? Is that what they meant?
If not, we will clarify in the comments later on, so don't worry about it. Okay, our final question is from Jason on YouTube, who says, so what can EKM shop owners do in the product uploading process to help Google make the product as relevant as possible?
So the most important thing would be the identifier number. So when you're uploading new products, make sure you've got them. Images, titles, things like that. You can also do specific classifications on each product in the edit product section. So for Google classifications, and select, you know, the appropriate category for each item. It might be that, you know, most of them fall under the same category if you're, you know, you've got a small amount of products. But that always helps. The more information you can give about your product, the better. You know, the more codes you can add, the more description you can add, the more words you can add in your product title, the more images you can add, the better. The more stuff that you can add about each product, the better, because there's more chance that you will be found on Google from people searching.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today, Emily. I hope we've answered as many questions as we can in this short time. And like I say, if you do have any more questions, pop them in the comments, or you can try and speak to our Google Shopping team. I think Ian left a comment I left a link in the comments, sorry. So you can go over to our page and request a call back from them, and they can sort of chat you through what is needed for your sort of like specific ad needs. So yeah, if you do have any questions, we'll try and help you out as much as possible. Thank you again, Emily, for your time today. It's been really good and really insightful.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you very much. And don't forget to join us in our next Facebook Live next month. And thank you for joining, everybody, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.